If I had a nickel for every time this book highlighted a staring contest between Channy and a famous celebrity, I'd have 10 cents, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it even happened at all. Hello and welcome to Connotation Points Video Snark. If you came here because you thought that this was an audiobook, please stick around and maybe learn some reading and listening comprehension skills. I read books and discuss what went wrong and how they can possibly be fixed. I'm continuing my read-through of Funny You Should Ask by Elissa Sussman. Not the first video, go check out the others, links are posted below. Chapter 10. Channy knows that it's stupid to follow Gabe, yet she does it anyway. As she pulls into the same driveway, she finds herself full of anger. However, rather than to give us literally anything new, Channy continues to be angry over the exact same things. I am once again reminding everybody that celebrities don't owe us anything. The only thing of actual value that relates to Channy personally is if her own career success is because she's actually a good interviewer and writer, or if she's simply running off of Gabe's coattails. The rest of it is her whining that a man she literally spent 2 days with refused to tell her that he was actually in a relationship with another woman. This has nothing to do with you. Being angry over something that happened a decade earlier isn't normal or healthy. As Channy walks inside, the author can't help but beat her around the head some more with the fact that 10 years have passed, this time by the lack of any sort of dog items in the house. Channy is kind of sad over the fact that the dog might have died, which, yes, it is kind of sad, but I'm also freaking exhausted over this book's inability to shut up about the decade that's passed. I'm sorry, he says. For what, I think? For feeding into the intense, unrealistic fangirl fantasy I'd built up in my head, for being too good to be true and also human and fallible, which only made it harder to dislike you, for the seemingly unending ripple effect that our interview has had on my life, both professionally and personally, for all the moments I've replayed in my brain hundreds of times and all the things I'm unable to forget, for all the things I don't want to forget, for my stupid traitorous heart that hasn't learned a single goddamn lesson in 10 goddamn years. Again, highlighting how unhealthy that this is. She had literally 2 days with the guy, decided that they were in love and that they were going to ride off into the sunset. And then he proved that the two of them didn't actually know each other. And for the next decade, she stewed over this anger? Yes, Channy did say that she was in therapy, but the fact that she's still hung up over this 48-hour period is telling me that whatever she's doing isn't enough. Gabe apologizes for having lied about his relationship with Jacinda, and then the narration has to bring everything to yet another screeching halt so that Channy can describe a random chance encounter she'd had with Jacinda at a restaurant, except that Jacinda literally looked at Channy across a crowded restaurant and left. Literally nothing happened, and the two of them didn't say a single word to each other. I cannot begin to express how little I care about any of this, but specifically of the plot being stopped simply to have yet another staring contest. If I had a nickel for every time this book highlighted a staring contest between Channy and a famous celebrity, I'd have 10 cents, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it even happened at all. What's worse is that Channy's random flashback interrupted the middle of Gabe's apology. He goes on to say that him lying about his relationship wasn't fair to either Jacinda or Channy. Channy feels randomly victimized all over again, for no real reason as far as I can tell. She also indicates that she'd gone to see Gabe when they'd both been in New York, but will stop the plot for a random Jacinda moment, but not for the plot-relevant flashback. I legit do not understand what the author was going for with all of this. Channing then decides to put words into Gabe's mouth and says that she was only, quote, dumb, adoring, and easy. Gabe kind of calls her out on it, which makes her retract the dumb part. He says that she's saying it, not him. He tries to explain the circumstances around his relationship to Jacinda, but Channing is quick to shut him down. I know that Gabe isn't Jeremy, that their failures aren't the same, but the hurt they cause is different, but right now I really don't care. I want to be mad at a man, and this one will do just fine. And here we have it. Channy doesn't hate all men, but rather she views all of them as a stand-in for the singular man who actually did hurt her. I'm not saying that Gabe is blameless, but as I've been saying, Channy's anger at him has been so wildly out of left field for no real reason. Gabe then says that he and Jacinda had this friends with benefits sort of thing, and at the time they thought that if they got married, it would benefit both of them. Channy says some stuff about her marriage to Jeremy, some out loud and some to the readers, that her relationship with Jeremy wasn't that much different than Gabe's relationship with Jacinda. Because I definitely don't want to cry about some stupid, misguided sense of lost time and missed chances. Again, it's literally been a decade. Get a better therapist. Gabe goes on to say that the rumors about Jacinda sleeping around with married directors wasn't true. Like I said, there's always two sides to a story, and Jacinda is apparently not going to be cast in the role of the scorned ex-lover. The Jacinda situation sounds pretty on brand for Hollywood, not gonna lie. A hot female celebrity, a male director, he had the power to make or break her career. It's happened over and over and over again. Pamela Anderson and Megan Fox are two that immediately come to mind, but I'm sure that there's a lot of others. Game continues on to say that when Oliver had introduced him and Jacinda, it simply made sense, but when Gabe met Channing, it kind of changed some things. He also says that she was really bad at interviewing, which, yeah, we all died a little from secondhand embarrassment. Channing was really bad. Channing then cuts him off and demands to know why she's there. He says that he wants to take her to Montana. Despite her protests, I think we both know that she'd follow Gabe off of a bridge, because despite everything that she said in this chapter, she has learned nothing. Bonus Chapter 11. In an interview that the readers of this book 100% did not ask for and did not want, a joint interview between Gabe and Oliver. You must also remember that Oliver has yet to make an on-page appearance, so excuse me when I say that I literally do not care. Anyway, this interviewer remarks upon the shorthand language that Oliver and Gabe have developed, which leads him to the opinion that their friendship is legitimate and not simply for show. The two of them talk about Gabe's upcoming role in the Philadelphia Story remake. Gabe talks about the sexist subplot between his character of Tracy and his daughter, which is stolen directly from Channy's lips. This section is Saturday. To my immense surprise, what follows next is not Chapter 11, but rather Bonus Chapter 12. Since the story has finally bothered to actually get around to the point, sort of, we're getting more of Channy's original award-winning interview with Gabe. Yes, the one that even the book admitted through Gabe that wasn't done well. Now, maybe if you or I lived in this world where Gabe Parker was a real celebrity, you would be more interested in reading what Gabe is actually like. But since this is supposed to be a romance novel between Gabe and Channy, this is honestly the more interesting part. Yes, that's right, we're finally getting to the actual meat of what happened 10 years ago. Channy did go to the movie premiere hanging onto Gabe's arm. She knows when her interview was finally released, the entire world saw her on Gabe's arm. She's pretty aware of what people have said about her. Thank you kindly. Do you remember that in-book Goodreads review about Channy's novel? The one that basically called her book self-absorbed and self-serving? Yeah. As I'm reading about Channy's experiences and Channy's personal observations, I can't help but think about that. This is supposed to be an interview about Gabe Parker, yet the introduction of this is about Channy's not famous life and how it felt to be on the red carpet for the first time. About how she was introduced to these other celebrities. Gabe is literally nothing but a footnote in this part of the so-called interview. And then Oliver shows up. And I can't even be happy over the change of topic in her interview as it pivots to talking about him and how handsome he is and all of the famous things he's been in, such as Mr. Darcy in another adaptation of Pride and Prejudice. Although at least Channy's finally stopped yapping about herself, she's now completely taken over Gabe's interview by talking about somebody who isn't Gabe. Anyway, in an earlier chapter in the Now, Channy alluded to the fact that she'd gone to an after-party with Gabe. It was actually Oliver who had invited Gabe, and since Channy was his date for the night, she went along as well. Channy will not shut up about the differences between celebrities and us regular people, in an article that was meant to humanize Gabe for his upcoming James Bond movie. This part is titled Then, despite the fact that nothing of value has happened during the Saturday section. I don't know what's happening. Chapter 11. Channy asks her friend Joe to help her put on makeup for the red carpet event. Although calling Joe a friend would be kind of a stretch, even Channy has this to say. We were roommates who gossiped viciously and used each other for favors. It wasn't healthy, but I didn't have anyone else besides Jeremy. Channy then goes on to explain about how all of her friends from school either lost contact with her a long time ago or aren't in LA with her, and she's not close with her family. She's basically alone. Joe was jealous and demanding. She didn't like Jeremy at all. To be fair, I don't like Jeremy. He hasn't even made an on-page appearance yet, and I don't like him. Anyway, Joe is convinced that Gabe is doing this to get Channy in bed. Despite Channy's insistence that nothing will probably happen, Joe seems to think that big Hollywood men like that enjoy the ego-stroking more than anything else. When Channy goes to tell Joe that Gabe isn't like that, she forces herself to stop, that she actually doesn't know Gabe half as well as she'd like to think, even after that interview. So instead, she thinks about how she'd messaged him the night before and tried to be cool about it. This led to her playing phone tag with a bunch of different people, and basically somebody agreed to come pick her up the next night for the event. Joe interrupts this random aside to comment that Gabe is doing this to try and butter Channy up, that she'd write a nicer article about him if he got her into the event, that he'll probably stop by and say hello, but that the two of them wouldn't even sit together. This rubs Channy the wrong way, but she doesn't say anything. At least the book admitted upfront that Channy's relationship with with Joe was toxic and terrible. Joe asks her what she's wearing and then scoffs over the idea of Channy showing up wearing what she describes as Forever 21 fashion. This leads Channy to put on the blue dress, but I feel like her choice to put it on has been ruined with the fact that we've been told on a couple different occasions what she was wearing to the event. However, as she puts it on, the dress tears. She panics because she doesn't have anything suitable for the red carpet and she has to leave in 10 minutes. So she pins the rip to her brow and prays for good luck and dim lighting. Although I also feel like she's forgetting something else. Nobody is going to care that much what some rando is wearing. When she comes out, Joe says that Gabe is 100% going to sleep with her, but to wear protection because he's probably filthy. Gross. She asks for the deets in the morning as Channy heads out the door. Thanks for listening to my book Snark on YouTube. New videos are up every Monday, but stick around because I sometimes drop random videos on other days too. Just as a reminder, even if you can't financially support me, there are other ways to help me out. The first is watching this video as well as all my other videos. It's also important to like and subscribe. Finally, you can share this video with all of your friends so that they can help as well. If you're already caught up with all my videos, you can go to Tumblr for my main book Snarks, always free and updated every morning. And if you've already read all of my main Snarks, then you can find even more Snark on my Patreon. You can access it for $1 a month. Members also get early access to my main Tumblr Snark. Special thanks to Dawn, Phoebe, and Nikki for supporting me on Patreon already. If you want to hear your name in my video next week, either support me on Patreon or make a one-time donation. Do you like my Snark so much that you want me to Snark your rating? I do that too. For just $6 per chapter, I will tell you how awful that your rating is. But not to worry if you feel like you couldn't take the criticism. I also offer regular book editing as well, just $10 per chapter. You can contact me on any of my social media platforms if you have further questions. If you want to read some of the things that I've written, you can purchase my works on Amazon. I have a slew of erotic short stories and 2 full-length novels. I also frequently run flash sales on my stories, and if you don't follow me on any social media, you might want to do so just so you can know when I might be offering things for free. Links for everything will be posted below. See you next week, guys.